This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
I am. I'm feeling pretty good. I know when I'm done doing this interview, I've got to paint my living room. I'm not excited about having to paint my living room. Yeah, but we'll get it done.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's not fun. That's definitely not fun. Are you a good painter? That's the question.
I am. I just don't want to be. So yeah, it's my own fault.
So the effort's not going to be there. There's going to be some drips. It's going to be some bubbles.
No, you know what?
Life's not going to be happy with that.
The effort will be there because one time, a long time ago, the effort was not there, and I had to do it again. And so I will not go through that. I was pissed off that I had to paint our guest bathroom at like 7 a.m. years back. I forget what the reasoning was I had to do it that early. And I basically took the paint can and just threw it at the wall and then just rolled it. It did not go well. So I won't do that, but I will tell you, I will move with purpose as I try to get this done as fast as humanly possible.
I can tell you what happens in my house. My wife goes, "You idiot! You don't know how to do anything right. Get out of the way." That's how it goes. And then she ends up doing it because she does it right because she has the patience and I don't. And it's like, yeah, she's like, yeah, if I take you out of sports, you don't know what the hell you're doing. Yes, exactly. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah. I'll talk music too. I can talk a little music if you want. That's about it. But I am pretty much useless everywhere else. And she knows it. So
I hear you. I tell people all the time, they'll ask me if they know what I do for a living. They're like, well, if you didn't do what you do, what would you do? I'm like, I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. Like, I was like, I probably would have become a cop or a teacher because I would have wanted the pension. that would have been it. Like, but I don't know. Like, I would not have been a very good police officer. I had a lot of family or have a lot of family that does it, but I can't imagine it at midnight if some guy was going 20 over the speed limit on the highway. Like, I'm not pulling out after that guy. There's no way. I'm sitting there, I'm relaxing. I'm not going after that guy. I would not have been very good at upholding the rules of the road. So probably ended up in the right profession. But yeah, when it comes to the house, it really depends. If we're talking about painting, I've got you covered. If we're talking about like some stuff with like the gardens, I can do that. My dad is amazing with gardens. Like I thankfully, I think by osmosis got some of that. If we're talking about getting up on the roof, hell no, I'm not getting up on the roof. Like there's no chance. If you live in my area and you want to clean my gutters, I'll pay you any amount of money.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, it's not worth it. You call a professional for that. No, I call a professional for that shit. I'm not doing that, bro. There's no way I'm doing that. My wife wouldn't let me do that either because she knows that I'd end up dead. So yeah,
my wife would let me do it because she doesn't care if I end up dead. But I'm not. There's no world because our roof, we have like, I don't know, the one set of gutters is like 10 or 12 feet off the ground. That I'll do. But then we have a second set of gutters. It's like 25 feet off the ground.
Yeah,
no chance. Like absolutely. In fact, we've lived here for 5 years and I've just put it off. So I'm like, like what could possibly be in there, right? Like we don't have that many trees around us. And we had a guy come out in like August and he's up there and he's yelling down. He's like, when's the last time you did these? I'm like, never. Have fun, man. See you later. I was like, not a chance. So there I am.
All right. Well, you know who wasn't covered was Robert Salah by Benigno, the Joe Benigno. I mean, what is that story, bro? I mean, for Benigno to come out publicly and say that the coach is sending him these texts, and then he tries to backtrack and says that he misinterpreted, which then just kind of makes it even worse as it is. I don't know how Robert Salah survives now. I mean, you're talking quarterback stuff with video hosts. And dude, I get it. There are people that do talk to media members, but brother, you got to know who you're going to trust here on this one. Wow.
Yeah. So I grew up listening to WFN in New York and to Joe Beningo. And he's good on the radio and he's very entertaining. Although I feel like he's kind of jumped the shark with the Jets with this stuff. This is guy. I mean, I listen to him all the time, so I'm very familiar with Beningo. My father listens to him every single day, and he's entertaining and he's funny. But like, you can't do that. You cannot. I don't care. But see, here's the problem. So Salah's texting him. Like Joe Beningo is a radio host. He's very good at his job, but like he's a fan. Like he's a fan of the team. And to his credit, he's very open about the fact he's a fan of the team. But like
I am.
Yeah,
like I am.
Like, but Joe, like you have to delineate the line from I'm a fan of the team to I'm gonna torch the coach who's been generous enough to like talk to me and be generous and have a line of communication with me. I can tell you a few things are going to come out of this. One, the Jets are going to not have any appearances on WFAN for quite a while. Two, Salah's not going to be sending Joe Beningo a Christmas card.
Nope.
And three, look, if it's true that Salah texted him what he initially said he did before he backtracked, like I felt for a while that this is untenable. How do you go forward with this? Like, what do you do? But here's the problem. Quickly, if they fire him at the end of this year, you and I both know how this goes. Rodgers is going to go up to Woody Johnson, not to Joe Douglas, to Woody Johnson, and say, Woody, I want Nathaniel Hackett as my head coach. Because Nathaniel Hackett and I are boys, and that's who I want. Right. And if you're the Jets, what do you do? Like, you can't – listen, I'm from that area of the country. You cannot make that guy the head coach.
You married her. I mean, you married her. You're tied to her. You got to listen to her now. Unfortunately,
this man, but like this isn't like Arizona. Okay, I'm from that area. They will burn that stadium to the ground. Like I can't even imagine what the reaction will be up there. We're back home.
About an 80-year-old man that wears rappers bling.
I'm aware. Listen, but I had somebody tell me a long time ago that there was an owners meeting. He wore like a beanie propeller hat to an owners meeting. And people were not amused. Let's put it that way. I just like if you're the Jets, it's almost like the lesser of the two evils, right? Like you just keep Salah and you just close your eyes and pray to God it works out when Rodgers shows up.
We got a problem there now. No. There's a deeper problem here now. Players will not trust him.
I don't disagree with you. I completely agree with you, but I don't know.
That is the biggest problem of this whole thing.
Totally agree.
Robert Salah now will lose the players in his locker room because he's talking to the media and he's giving them insight on the team. And players, brother, all players ever hear from their coaches and their people above them, don't talk, don't tell anybody this, don't tell, hey, guys, everything stays in the locker room. And your head coach? No, dude, no. Robert Salah has a major problem now, dude.
I agree. I totally agree. I just don't know if you're Woody Johnson, if you're Joe Douglas, like what do you do? I mean, if you fire him, you're screwed. Like Rodgers is gonna go up there and be like, I want who might be the worst head coach in NFL history to be our head coach. And if he's not our head coach, I'm gonna throw an absolute fit on McAfee every Tuesday, which by the way, I very rarely agree with anything that comes out of Aaron Rodgers' mouth. But when he talked about the fact that the Jets have more leaks than the Titanic the other day, like, he's not wrong. I mean, How does that one story, and I give Diana Russini a lot of credit. She did an excellent job over at The Athletic about breaking that story where the Jets essentially went to Zach Wilson and were like, hey, Zach, you're back in. And Zach Wilson was like, I'm good. I've seen the offensive line, and I like to live. So I'm going to sit this one out. And you guys go put anybody else back there. Like, as bad as that is, assuming that happened, as bad as that is, who's leaking that? Who is telling reporters that? I mean, that is wild. I can't. Most teams would do anything. They'd be so embarrassed not to have that leak, right? Like they're not going to tell you. Who in that organization can't stand Zach Wilson so much that they're like, you know what? Here's a story for you. It's incredible. The Jets are just a total disaster.
Well, you're talking to the guy that broke the story that Flo didn't want Tua, right?
That is true. That is true. I mean, and kudos to you for that, because I have no idea how the hell like that is. It's hard.
And at the same time, I knew it was Jordan Love also that he wanted. I just couldn't. I was sworn to secrecy on the Jordan Love part. They didn't swear me to secrecy on the. You could talk that he didn't want him, and so Zach Wilson, huh? So Tua for 2 years had an offensive line that he would get pressured when he was handing off. He had an offensive line coach that is the fourth in line now because they brought him on like an intern to learn from everybody else because Mike McDaniel's smart. He knows eventually he'll lose Frank Smith. Eventually he'll lose, guys, and he'll have to elevate and develop. So that's what he's doing. The guy that was the lead guy is the developmental guy now on the coaching staff, okay? Put it that way. And then Tua was playing with a coach that literally hated him and didn't want him.
It wasn't good.
And so he never complained. He never said, I don't want in. He was always ready, even if they were shitting on him all the time, from inside the building or from everyone else all across the country shitting on the kid. So think about how mentally tough Tua Tagovailoa is compared to Zach, because Tua had it even worse, dude. His coach hated him. Robert Saleh has never hated him or anything. He gave him all the support he could possibly give him from the get-go. You know what I'm saying? And Tua never had that support from the get-go. It's funny to hear the Zach Wilson story and then to watch what Tua went through for 2 years.
Oh, listen, I mean, Tua, I don't think anybody would doubt the guy's mental and physical toughness. I mean, and if you do, you don't know who the guy is. So I think that's true. Now, that being said, I mean, you and I might have a pretty good mental toughness compared to Zach Wilson based on what we've seen in the last 2 years. I mean, this is – I honestly can say, and I've asked a few people around the league this last few days, I can't think of any player who's ever just been like, yeah, I'm good. I'm all set. Now, I mean, there have been guys who are like, they're hurt and they're like, hey, I can't do it. That's one thing. That's a totally different deal. Right. You're healthy and you're an NFL player and your coach is like, hey, let's get you back in there. Like, it's okay. that's you don't come back from that.
No.
Like, you won't and here's one thing too. If that's because I know the Jets immediately like, no, that's not true. If that's not true, Zach Wilson should have been up on a podium 15 minutes later saying that's BS. I want the ball. Give me the. I don't want to hear from Saleh on this. I don't want to hear from him. I want to hear from Zach Wilson.
That's right.
Zach, somebody just said that you're an NFL player who doesn't want to play football because you're scared of getting hurt. I mean, that's essentially what the report was. Zach Wilson should have been telling everybody on the PR staff at the Jets, telling all the coaches, hey, look, call a press conference. I'm going up there, and I'm telling the whole world, I want the football. I'm the best quarterback on this team, and I'm going to prove that. And to not hear from him after that basically tells me, and I'm not surprised, Dan is a great reporter, that it's true. I mean, it's out there. And by the way, I also haven't seen a whole lot of Jets players rushing to debunk that story either. So,
no.
I mean, Saleh, he has to do it. What other choice does he have? But nobody else has said anything, which not great. Not a great look for Gangrene up there.
Any hard knocks for you yet?
Snippets, not a lot. I did see the one thing that made me laugh is I saw the clip about Wes Welker talking to Tyreek Hill about the single coverage stuff. Yeah. And it's funny because it actually comes out this morning, but I wrote it Monday night. I do an all 22 breakdown every week where I pick 3 plays. It's just, for whatever reason, they're really important. They interest me, whatever. And I picked Tyreek Hill 78-yard touchdown as one of the 3 plays. I would love to ask Tua, at what point when they broke the huddle did he know he had a touchdown? Like, I watched pretty much literally every snap of Tyreek Hill's career, And I would say since his second year on, I don't think there's ever been more than maybe a half dozen snaps where he's lined up and his safety hasn't been over the top of him on that side of the field.
Right.
And if you watch the all-22 on that play, and hopefully you'll read my story and you'll see it, the Commanders have one deep safety, and he's all the way on the other side of the field from Tyreek Hill. Like he's across the hash marks because they have a 3-man set over there. Mm-hmm. Tyreek Hill is not only one-on-one, he's one-on-one against a rookie safety. And it is, if you watch that play, Tua doesn't even take a drop back. He takes one step to clear the center and then just throws it. That had to be the easiest 78-yard touchdown pass in NFL history. Had to be. He didn't even, Tua basically was like, I'm going to throw this ball about 20 yards, put a little loft under it, and we're up 7-0. Because there's no way this guy is covering Tyreek Hill one-on-one. And Cameron Curl is lined up about 40 yards to the other side of the boundary. I learned two things on that play. One, pretty sure Tyreek Hill is getting to 2,000 yards this year. Okay, as long as he's healthy, that's going to happen.
Shocker.
And two, Washington's going to have a whole different coaching staff next year. It's not just going to be Jack Del Rio. I mean, that is, to call that defense is just staggering. I'd love to know what the thought process was behind that defensive alignment.
Our guy can stay with him.
God, nobody can stay with him. I mean, I got to tell you, I very rarely feel bad for an NFL player beyond when they get hurt. That rookie safety must have been like, are you kidding?
Right.
I got to tell you the honest to God's truth. Oh, I'd have tackled him. I would have just tackled him and taken the 5 yards. I would have walked into the line of scrimmage and just tackled him. And been like, you know what? That's fine. Here you go. Here's a first down. Because the second he gets off the line of scrimmage, it's a 78-yard touchdown.
Yeah,
and it was.
You can tell that they're young players because sometimes a veteran might go, oh, hell no. This is not a good call, bro.
Time out.
You got me. And almost just right at that snap, he's already rushing to that side of Tyreek, anticipating that he's going to burn that corner and kind of break free from whatever play call you have. Sometimes it's what Vic Fangio said last week. He said, I don't want a player that does everything I tell him to do, but I also don't want the player that doesn't do anything that I want him to do. So he doesn't mind a guy that can ad lib a little bit and kind of think about that. That's that kind of moment, but you're so young, you don't want to challenge authority at that moment. And maybe authority made the wrong call. And sometimes you're on the field, you see that it's the wrong call. You need to correct it right there and then. And that's what great players do. They do that all the time. Yeah, sure. It's a bunch of times that we don't even know about a great play that was made. It wasn't a great call. It was a great adjustment that was made by a certain player or something like that. And we just never find out about it unless it's written later on or the story is told or some shit like that. Look at the Tyreek thing this past week. Yeah. They're picking on that because, of course, everybody that was wrong on Tua, they try anytime there's something that they can pick on him, they do it. And I forgot the name of the guy, but he says, oh, see, it was a bad pass by Tua, great adjustment by Tyreek. And then Tyreek had to correct the guy and say, yep. I was the guy that was wrong. Actually, he threw the right pass. And that's the kind of shit that goes on all the time, that if Tyreek doesn't correct you, the narrative continues. You know what I'm saying? And in this case, just that kid was not going to go against authority at that moment. And by the way, it was like a 29-year-old assistant coach that was designing the defense this week against Miami. Jesus Christ.
With all due respect, I don't care. I don't care if he's 9. Like my 6-year-old daughter Maisie would have been like, "Hey, listen, we got to cover that guy." I mean, come on, like
the entire time. Yes,
I'm telling you, right, dude. Honest to God, Tyreek Hill had to have lined up on that play and been like, "Oh my God!" Like, I don't care if they called the bubble screen. Tyreek must have looked over at Tua and given him whatever the sign was for the go ball. Like, hey Tua, going deep. I mean, that is. I got to tell you, the first time I watched it, because I'm thinking like, okay, I needed a couple plays. I'm looking. Oh God, let me watch that play. Let me see what happened. I swear to God, when I turned on the film and saw the alignment, I'm like, there's no way. Like, this has got to be some kind of like post-snap rotation. And then, no, it wasn't. It was just, we're just going to play man-on-man all the way across with Cameron Curl about 40 yards that way and hope for the best. I mean, it's just, it had to be the easiest touchdown of his career. Honestly, him and Tua, both of them.
Yeah. No, it was an easy read, easy throw. And it's one of those throws you could tell that Tua is like, it's so easy. It's like that when that just wide open by himself and he drops it. It's one of those that you're just like, dude, I can't screw this one up. It's so easy.
It's almost like in basketball and the whole lane clears and you're like, I just have to lay this in. It's almost harder than when there's somebody in your face because you're used to it. Oh, I swear, I'm sure Tua in his head was like, just don't make a horrible throw here. Like, just loft it out there and he's gone. And he was gone. It was a good throw, and it was easy.
Don't be the reason why it doesn't happen.
Yes, don't underthrow it because you're trying to be too fine. Like, just loft her out there and let him run under it. And it was a good throw. Put it right where he needed to.
Yeah, it was a good throw. And he didn't have turnovers this week because I've been picking on him the last couple of weeks. He's been turning it over too much.
He did a good job. I got to tell you, I thought his best play of that game was a play in the red zone. I think it was the second quarter. And Washington had a free rusher on him. He just little move, stayed right on. I know that something like that doesn't show up in the box score, but that's big time. Like a lot of quarterbacks.
He did it 3 times in that game, completed 2 of the passes. The third one was the one of the sideline play, and he still made a nice throw to the receiver actually down the sidelines on that. He's just an accurate passer, dude. That's the thing about him.
He did a nice job. I mean, look, you know what? Let's face it with the Dolphins. The next 2 weeks, they play the Titans, and then they play not even a football team with the Jets. So they'll win those 2 games. Then comes what is going to – I honestly think is a good thing for Miami. You're going to have 3 straight games against Dallas, who's certainly a very good team. Baltimore is a good team. Then Buffalo, who you don't know what they're going to be playing for. You don't know. But is an explosive team, a dangerous team, all this stuff. That's – look, I don't expect anybody to go 3-0 against that stretch. But I like the Dolphins. Like, can you go 2-1? Can you do that? I mean, can you go 3-0 is a lot to ask. Like, I don't care who you are. That's hard. Okay, but can you win 2 of them? Can you win 2 of those games?
No, dude. If they are who we think they are, they're no worst case scenario is 2 out of 3. If we think they're better than Baltimore, if we think they're better than Dallas, if we think they can go deep into the playoffs, if we think they're better than Buffalo, then enough of the talk, bro. You got to win. Well, I think they should win it. I think they should win all 3, to be quite honest. But worst case scenario, you can't lose more than 1.
Look, going to Baltimore, that's a hard game that time of year. That's a hard place to play, and it's cold. But I would say this. Like, the other 2 games are at home, and you need to, like, at some point, you got to shed that narrative of beat up all the bad teams, can't beat a good one. Like, and by the way, for the record,
they won in Baltimore last year down by 2.
I know it's a crazy game.
By 21.
Yep,
brought them back and won the game.
Okay? Listen, it was amazing. I remember writing about Tua after that game. I just think it's a hard place to play. That's why they made that game so impressive. It was a very there are certain stadiums in the NFL that just, when you go there, you're in for a street fight. You just are. They're hard games. The weather's bad. That being said, look, Miami's a very good football team. I don't necessarily buy into this whole, like, well, they can't beat good teams. They've just lost a few games against good teams, and they've destroyed every bad team they faced. This is, look, win your next 2 games, take care of business, get to 11-3, and then you got that stretch where, look, right now, Trevor Lawrence is hurt. They're going to have a hard time getting to the 1 seed. Baltimore's schedule is very, very difficult. I mean, in Kansas City, Kansas City's lost 3 of their last 5 games. And
What's up with your boys? What's up with your boys getting tripped up this week?
I was there. I was actually in the suite next to Taylor Swift, which was interesting. And we had a lot of people who don't know how to handle themselves and just took photos of her like they were paparazzi throughout the evening, and then were escorted out of the building. No, you know what? Look, I think it's a couple things. It was the first game all year where the defense wasn't particularly sharp. And to their credit, they actually got the ball back 21-19, 24-19. The Chiefs basically have you and me at receiver. I mean, that's what's going on. Like, they have Rashee Rice. Like, if one more person asks me, well, is Travis Kelce falling off? I'm like, watch the film of these games. There's 3 guys around him on every play. I mean,
They're bracketing him, which is what you're supposed to do.
it is a miracle that guy's going to have 1,200 yards this year. It's honestly maybe the most impressive thing I've ever seen out of him. Like, they cover him with 2 or 3 guys on every play. They should.
Oh, wait a minute. He's going to get 1,200 yards while traveling the world, which really becomes even more impressive.
It's unbelievable. Like, the fact that he's going to have that many yards with the amount of coverage that's been dedicated to him is just it's staggering. But in any event, look, I think for the Chiefs, if you look at their schedule, so they got the Bills this weekend at Arrowhead, where all bets are off. I have no idea what's going to happen in that game because both of those teams, you never know which version's showing up. But then after that, they have a very easy schedule. They have the Patriots, they have the Raiders at home, they have the Chargers, they have the Bengals at home. So the Chiefs have a shot to run the table here if they beat Buffalo. But I don't know. I think the defense will bounce back and be fine. The offense is just very, very limited on the outside. They can run it and they can throw to Rice and Kelce. They're very good on third down because their scheme is so good. But if you can take away the middle of the field with them, it becomes a question of how much can Mahomes do. I mean, that's really it. I mean, how much magic can he create that afternoon? Because they have legitimately, for a good team, they have the worst receivers I've ever seen, other than Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice has been very pleasantly surprising. The rest of that team outside is brutal, absolutely brutal.
All right, so we've got the Patriots, obviously in just absolute disarray, everything going on. They got zapped this week. You've got the Jets, obviously with the whole Salah and Zach Wilson and Benigno crap going on. You got Von Miller trying to come back to the facility this week for the Bills after a domestic violence arrest. Can things get any easier for the Miami Dolphins? Because not only are these teams bad, but the dysfunction that's going on all 3 franchises in the AFC East. Meanwhile, Miami wins twice a week, as I tell Dolphins fans. You're winning either on Sunday, on Thursdays, on Fridays, or on Mondays, and you're winning on Tuesdays with Hard Knocks. So it's funny how life for one team is completely different than life for the other 3 teams in the AFC East.
I would say this, not just in the AFC East, because the AFC East is a disaster this year outside of Miami. But there's never been a year, well, I should say never, in recent memory, where the AFC has been this open. I mean, for 20 years, you had New England, or you had Peyton Manning, whether it was in Indy or Denver, or the Steelers, or Baltimore. And then the last 5 years, you've had Kansas City just sitting there, and it's like, well, you've got to get through them, and you got to go there, and it's just like, good luck. This is a year where it's pretty open. I mean, look, Baltimore is a good team, but Baltimore has not done anything in the playoffs with Lamar Jackson. Just have not done it. Jacksonville's an interesting team, but Jacksonville's pass defense is atrocious. And any team, I mean, Jake Browning just looked like Joe Montana. Okay, I mean, that was unbelievable.
Trevor injury just puts them.
It's a killer. It's a killer. The wild card teams, whether it's Pittsburgh or Cleveland or Indy, I mean, Houston's probably the most dangerous one because of Stroud, honestly. And they just lost Tank Dell, which is a big loss. But you respect them because of Stroud. I mean, you look at the AFC, Kansas City. On one hand, you look at the Chiefs and go, look, nobody wants to run into them in January because they're the kind of team that, like, they've been there, they've done it, they've got a really good defense, and they have Mahomes. I mean, it could just be one of those days where he scores 40 because he just decides to go out of, go totally nuclear in the game. But they're not. While the Chiefs are still a very good football team, they're not impregnable as in past years. When some years you'll look at them and just go, they're not going to lose. I mean,
it seems like the Chiefs have been figured out a little bit easier now because of the whole, hey, bro, just brace Kelce.
Right.
And force the rest of those guys to beat you. And those guys have not been able to beat people week in and week out. It'll be occasional, but it won't be consistent. And that's probably the lesson learned for them now. I don't think they'll be going cheap on wide receiver anymore.
Oh, no. Listen, if you know anything about Blvd, next year, they're probably going to have about 5 new receivers. I mean, when they lost to Tampa in the Super Bowl a couple years ago because they couldn't block, they ripped up that entire offensive line. Like literally every single guy in that line was out the following year. So no, I think you're right. I mean, that is the obvious thing where you look at Kansas City and go, okay, the defense is actually very good this year, but offensively, they're limited. I mean, they can only do some things, and they move the ball a ton, but they turn it over because Mahomes has to throw in a windows the size of a shoebox every throw. And
they gambled with their tackles. They got rid of their tackles. They brought other tackles. But if you would have done better at wide receiver,
you would have been fine.
I think you would have been just.
The tackles have been okay. It's really just that the receivers have been a mess.
That's my point. The tackle gamble worked out.
It's been fine.
But what didn't work out was the wide receiver transition. And I guess because they hadn't figured out what they had to do with them, you ended up winning that title. Now they figured out, okay, we got to stop Kelsey and force these other guys, which is a position they were never in because you could never do that to the Chiefs because they always had the receivers. It's a strange dynamic because it was brilliant by the front office to not have to. When they got rid of the tackles, you're like, yo, dude, what are you doing? And then they brought in those guys and they got by with it. Yeah. And you're going, okay, you got this guy and you're going to get by with those receivers. And it didn't happen.
No, it's been I mean, ironically, the second round rookie Rice has been the kid who's been really good. I mean, the rest of this team, nobody can catch a pass. I mean, Rice has been fantastic. It's going to be very interesting though, because every one of these teams in the AFC, the divisional leaders, I'm not necessarily talking about teams like Pittsburgh. You could make a case that they're the best team in the AFC. You could also make a case that any one of them, there's a flaw that's going to hold them back. It's, and that's going to be the interesting thing. I mean, when you look at these teams, Jacksonville is kind of the newer kid on the block along with Miami. Both teams won the playoffs last year. Miami, of course, had a third-string quarterback and actually played very well in the game. But there's a lack of experience there, but there's a lot of talent, and there's coaches who have gone on deep playoff runs. So you have that. And you have Tyreek, who's won a Super Bowl. You have Baltimore that has talent but never wins in the playoffs. So it's like, can they buck that trend? Kansas City has all the experience in the world. They have the best quarterback on earth, but is he held back by guys who just can't catch the football? And then you have Jacksonville. You don't know what's going on with Lawrence, and their pass defense ranks 30th in the NFL. And in the playoffs, if you can't stop the pass, you got a problem. I mean, That is one of the things, truthfully, I look at with the Eagles and the Niners. If you can block on it, you can throw on them. You can throw the ball on those teams. I mean, but it's just, especially Philly. But it's just the question of can you block and everything else. But the AFC is going to be very, very interesting. If you have a divisional round where it's Miami and Baltimore and Kansas City and Jacksonville, I don't know. I think Jacksonville is the fourth of the four teams. I think, but it's really probably going to come down to situational football, who's healthy, all that stuff.
All right. So last question. Rushing. Tyreek.
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill catching 2,000 yards. At the beginning of the year, one of the things that I talked about in training camp was that I felt they were going to keep 5 running backs instead of the usual 4 that they did, and that Chris Brooks would be the extra addition because this team is going to be more dedicated to the run. Then Tyreek comes out, I'm going to get 2,000 yards. And I said, no, you're not. Because if you're going to run the ball a lot more, then there's no way they're going to pass the ball that much. You know what I'm saying? Well, they're the second best rushing team in the NFL at 143 yards per game. Only Baltimore is better at 158. They have 1,720 yards. Baltimore only better at 1,903. They do average 5.3 yards per carry to Baltimore's 4.9. So that's impressive. So they have the best per carry average in the NFL. So you're telling me they're going to be one of the top 2 rushing teams in the NFL, and they're going to have a 2,000 and a 1,000-yard receiver? That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, here we are.
That's an article for you right there. I don't know how many times that's been done in history, but what Mike McDaniel's doing and what Tyreek is accomplishing on top of how much they're rushing, I think that's one of the most incredible stats and accomplishments in football in a long, long time if this truly happens.
Listen, I mean, their offense, when it's right and it's rolling, it is something to watch. I mean, it really, when they were playing Washington the other day, I was like, man, they might go for another 60. They might just roll them out of the bed. I think they basically could have if they want to. They're phenomenal. They're fast. They're innovative. They're different. And Tua is the perfect quarterback for the system because Tua, and I'm not saying he's a system quarterback, but he's perfect for that system because he's smart and he's accurate. And so that's what McDaniel needs. He needs him to be on time and he needs him to throw the ball so he can keep guys on the move. And when you have Hill, who is, in my opinion, the most explosive receiver to ever step on a football field. I mean, he is just, look, I watched him for a lot of years in Kansas City where they throw the ball to him. And you knew, like, if he catches the ball, he's going to pick up an extra 10 yards. Yeah. I mean, guys would just back up to terrified of him. It was like, well, let's just wait until help arrives. Between that and then, you got Achane and Mostert and everything else. I mean, it is an incredibly explosive group. It's a fun group. I
watched Marino with Clayton and Duper.
Yeah.
And that shit was fun. Okay. Now, they have no running game.
Well, yeah, because Tony Nathan was good. But, yeah, you're right. They run the ball a lot.
They were serviceable. Whatever they had, Tony Nathan, Higgs, whatever it was Davenport. They had serviceable guys. They never had a great running game. He never had it. Okay.
No, I totally agree.
But it's just not something we're used to. We're not used to the guy rushing for 1,000 yards and a team rushing for 3,000 yards. And you're also going to have a receiver that's going to go for 2,000 yards. That just doesn't make sense, dude. It's just absolutely crazy. We're not used to it. It's usually one or the other. It's not like the Ravens are killing it in the passing game. Yeah, they're killing it in the running game. That's what they always do. But you usually don't do both. I mean, it's just really weird. Either you are number one in wide receiving and you're in the middle of the pack rushing, or vice versa. But like that, both. Wow, dude. It's really impressive.
Great offense.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, what do you got going on this side, my man?
All the same staples as usual. Let's think here. So, like, the quarterback rankings coming out. I got the column on Sunday that runs the whole length of the day. My all 22, which does feature that Tyreek Hill play, which hopefully people will go check out. I have matchups to watch. They'll come out on Friday. That'll break down all the games ahead. And thankfully, I don't have to cover the Steelers-Pats game on Thursday. Thank God. Because if I have to watch Bailey Zappi and Mitchell Trubisky, I might do the gutters. I might get up to 25 feet and kick the ladder over and just sit up on the roof. Sorry, can't watch the game. I'm going to sleep on the roof. That's less scary than having to watch that football game.
Come down here, cover another roller coaster celebration. You got to admit, that was good.
I like that. That was good. I like that they thought out I forget who the player was who was going down and not like putting down
It was Rob Hunt. Rob Hunt.
Yeah, it was Rob Hunt putting down the seatbelts. I like the attention to detail. I'm a journalist. I like the details. I like the details.
That was one of the best celebrations out there, man.
That was good. That was good. That was nice. I like that.
Follow him on Twitter at Matt Verderame and catch his exceptional work there at Sports Illustrated. Matt, as always, thank you, my brother. We'll catch up next week.
Hey, thanks a lot, guys. Take care.
You got it. There you go. Matt Verderame, man, always getting it done for us. We always appreciate it.